Hey, I wanted to make a couple of videos here to kind of introduce you to some of the points that I think are important to bring out that are found at the very beginning of this facsimile of the 1611 King James. Now, this very first part that I'm dealing with is not part of the facsimile. This is actually something that they added in to give a history of the English Bible. And it starts with Wycliffe and it goes all the way to the 1611. But there's a lot of good information in here that I didn't know before until I researched it. It deals a lot with the particulars, people, places, and times in England during this time. So I just want to make a few videos to get through this because, again, I think that this is important to show some of the evidence of building this case. Okay, talking about the Wycliffe translation, they say in here that there was no attempt in either version, talking about the two Wycliffe versions that were around at that time, to translate in any party spirit, or to do anything else than give a faithful rendering of the Vulgate Latin. And I mention that because of this tendency to want to demonize Jerome and the Latin Vulgate. But even Wycliffe had no problem other than the fact that it was Latin, that they couldn't read it. So I just wanted to point that out. Talking about Tyndale, William Tyndale. On the other hand, Tyndale's own work fixed once for all the style and tone of the English Bible and supplied not merely the basis of all subsequent Protestant renderings of the books, with unimportant exceptions, on which he labored, but their very substance and body, so that those subsequent versions must be looked upon as revisions of his, not as independent translations. Thought that was kind of interesting, because that would include the 1611 as well. But moving on, let's see. In December of 1534, the upper house of convocation of the province of Canterbury had departed so far from its attitude of mere resistance as to petition the king that the Bible might be translated by authorized translators, and the progress which this denotes accounts for the rapidity with which one edition of Tyndale's New Testament follows another at this period. Said Tyndale himself revised one more printed for him by G.H. So, there was this, you had Tyndale who was working on translating into English the New Testament, and of course, that was becoming popular because people want to have their own Bible that they can read and understand for themselves. And here's the Church of England, the King of England, the powers that be were saying, that we need authorized translators. We don't need this guy out here, doing his own thing. We need control. So you kind of see that, and you see that even through the 1611, you see that spirit playing out, which is why there's so many different English translations. Talking about the Coverdale Bible. When as much favor was shown to it as this, it is surprising that this text of 1537 was not taken as the official version, since Coverdale was a much suppler and more conciliatory translator than Tyndale, and whereas the latter had consistently substituted, even going out of his way at times to do so, the less ecclesiastical terms, congregation, elder, favor, knowledge, love, repentance. And he used those words instead of church, priest, grace, confession, charity, and penance. It says Coverdale was ready to use either or both. So Tyndale had this tendency to kind of go the opposite way of what the official church wanted to use. Because they had this structure of priest and confession and things like that, naturally they would desire to have those kind of words in there. But Tyndale, when it come into one of these words to translate into English, when it could go either way, he would go that way. You see this really played out in the Geneva Bible, where they use congregation and minister instead of priest and things like that. But I point that out because I want to show twofold. I want to show that how much control and influence the Church of England and the English government had in these English Bibles. But also I want to show too that when you have a Greek term, phrase, or word, oftentimes there's more than one option in English to translate it. And I mention that because a lot of times the King James only advocate materials kind of want to make big arguments based on how a specific word is translated. Anyway, so again, just kind of dealing with some history here. Let's see, this is, well, as was inevitable, the Matthew Bible was quickly superseded, but its importance was very great, since it formed the starting point of the successive revisions which resulted in the version of 1611, a matter of sincere congratulation, as it contained, save for the rejection of his version of Nehemiah, Jonah, and the epistles from the Old Testament, the greatest possible amount of the work of Tyndale, who was a far better scholar than Coverdale. So again, just kind of showing how these Bibles led up to the 1611. The 1611 wasn't something that was like radically different. It was a building up. It was there was a bunch of revision processes going on that led up to it. And then this is the last one on this video, and I'll do another video. Reprints, however, were very numerous. Matthew's Bible, the Great Bible, and Tyndale's Testament, revised and unrevised, being the most favored. But Coverdale's Bible was also reprinted, and even Taverner's version of the Old Testament was touched up and reissued with Tyndale's of the New. Just showing again how these Bibles, once they were printed, they were circulated, and sometimes they had a license from printers to print them, other times they weren't, and that's why they kind of went out, faded out. But these were all around and everything. So that's it for this one. I'll pick up, because I do have more to share with the next one.